If you love bad football, we have a great show for you today. The patrons voted, and the 4 games that we are previewing are Texans-Ravens, so stoppable force meets very movable object. Patriots-Bills, which actually is a good game. Might be the best game of the weekend. Chiefs-Jaguars, so if you want to see like the record for most screens thrown in one game ever, that's happening this Sunday. And then Lions-Bengals, which is probably a snuff film. So, yeah, we have some great football and some very, very not great football to talk about, EJ, but I am excited either way.
You know what my theory is? My theory is that the fans missed the dog Thursday night game live streams, so they're just making us do it in podcast form instead.
I just think Bengals fans are frustrated and they want me to shit on the Bengals again, but I'm happy to oblige. I have plenty of notes for that. All right, we have a lot to get to today. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Neil, please roll the intro. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. And I'll tell you what, EJ, Houston might not be able to pass protect, but that's okay because Baltimore can't rush the passer. That's all I'm holding on to this week. How are you, my friend?
I'm well, and I think we're going to have some fun with this. We've had fun with those Thursday night games that have not been great as well. And there are interesting points, as you know, if you follow our podcast. We will find them in any NFL game, no matter how lousy. And yep, we're starting to get to that point of the season where the newness has worn off. We're getting into week 5. And yeah, there are going to be some teams that are just not playing up to potential, but we're going to talk about some of the things they're good at and some of the reasons in certain cases that they might get absolutely trounced.
Tiny little housekeeping note before we move on. We said we were going to do Shot of the Week today, and then we realized that as of us recording this show right now, we still haven't actually posted the first one. So we don't have any results to take shots to at all. So we feel like if this is going to be our new cadence where we're recording the first show before we release the second one, we're just going to have it be on a weekly schedule or every like Tuesday show. We announce the winner and announce the new nominees. I feel like it might be a little easier to do that way because it's Tuesday night and we still haven't posted the original one. So keep an eye out for the winner of the Bootleg Shot of the Week on the Week 5 recap show. For now, we're doing Week 5 preview, starting, unfortunately, with the aforementioned Texans-Ravens matchup, which, you know, over summer, we looked at this game, we're like, ooh, this could be a playoff preview again, right? You know, you got an MVP caliber quarterback, incredible roster in Baltimore. You know, we still really like CJ Stroud as a quarterback, even though I don't want to say he had a down year last year and he's having a down year this year, but he's definitely had his issues, and we'll get into those. Obviously, great defense. You know, there was a lot to look forward to in this matchup. 1 month into the season, half the Ravens starters are out with injury, including said quarterback. The Texans might be even worse at pass pro this year than they were last year. And all of a sudden, it's a 1-3 team that's fighting for its life, and another 1-3 team that, quite frankly, I'm not sure they're even going to win their own division now. When everybody and their mother were picking them before the season. Actually, that label can apply to both of them. Now that I think about it, so it's 2 1-3 teams that if they don't win this week, they might be screwed, and that adds both a level of intrigue and also a level of trepidation to this game.
I would say frustration probably for both fan bases, but in terms of the Texans, I don't know. The Ravens defense is ailing, and if there was ever a get-right game for them, it's probably the Texans' in terms of playing them. This is a team that went into the third quarter, the Texans leading the lowly Titans by only 2 field goals, 6-0 before they ripped off 3 more touchdowns, but they're 29th in scoring, 16 a game. The only saving grace with the Texans right now is that the defense is number 1 at limiting opponents' points a game. So they're only allowing 12.8. So it's okay that they're only scoring 16 because they'll win some that way. But that is a rough thing to carry over a full season. So the offensive line has been horrendous. There's no other way to say it. We worried that it might be this summer. There was a lot of, well, if somebody doesn't really ascend, this could be bad. Yeah, it's bad. It's, Houston's 20th in rush yards per attempt. Can't run the ball. Offense has given up almost 10 pressures a game in true passing situations. That's 38 in 4 games. The Texans defense, you talked about it, best scoring defense in the NFL. The one reason, they rush the passer really well, a lot better than they protect. So I can't imagine that practice is a ton of fun with the Texans OL.
Or productive at all.
Yeah, like, stop it. You're ruining it. Again, stop it. They've racked up 59 pressures in true passing situations, unlike the Ravens, so they can get after the quarterback. Anderson, Hunter, and Rankins have been absolutely hunting. Anderson has 16 pressures just by himself in true passing set situations. So this is a defensive line that is making hay, and the secondary can cover as well. You talked about Stingley. Kamari Lassiter's numbers don't look that good, but if you look at the tape, he's still playing pretty good football. He's getting his hand on the football. Passer rating against doesn't look great, but that doesn't always tell the full story. It's certainly a good enough secondary to pay off the pass rush for the Texans, so they can lean on their defense. We talked about that earlier in the week in the episode with the Jaguars. The Jaguars are starting to have, a sort of a foundational defense. Texans have a bedrock defense right now that they can lean on in just about every way: pass rush, coverage, scoring. It's all pretty good. They can't stop the run quite as well as they'd like, but that's okay. They're doing just fine without it. And we've seen teams do plenty well with those kind of ratings against the run and go deep into the postseason. But those teams had offenses, and the Texans don't right now. So the balance for Houston is a real problem.
You mentioned that the Ravens defense kind of started off this year like they did last year, and we went over this in Summer Series where, not that it was like the entire issue, but they had really, really bad safety play, which was a big part of the issue with their defense last year. Then they, swapped out personnel and kind of, rearranged who was lined up where. Kyle Hamilton started getting more snaps deep. Ardarius was getting, snaps deep. And once they fixed the safety position, their defense really locked in. Like, they could stop the run last year. They were an adequate pass rush last year. It's just they had really, really poor play in the secondary. This year, there's not that kind of quick fix. And it's not just because, okay, they're down, God, was it 6, 7 starters, something like that? Like, it's not just the injuries. Like, they can't magically wave their hand and move a couple guys and fix it. But, the foundation of the Ravens defense last year, even when they were bad, they could still stop the run. And, when they were allowing a ridiculous EPA per play and points per game and everything like that, it was really their pass defense that was the issue. Their run defense was still great. This year, both of them suck. And that is a real, real problem, because if you can't hang your hat on anything, all of a sudden you have a Texans offense who's coming in who can't pass protect at all, but they can actually run block a pretty fair bit. The issue with the Texans run game has not been, weirdly, the offensive line. It's been their running backs. This is a team who, in terms of yards before contact per attempt, they're second best in the NFL so far this year. It's yards after contact per attempt. What you do with it when you have the ball in your hands, that they've been 29th. And I think that was a big reason why we saw Woody Marks take on a much bigger role last week, which then brought their yards after contact per attempt up to, emphasis on the word up to, 19th. Significant improvement. Again, the offensive line, because this team relies so much on north-south man blocking, working double teams, they don't allow as many tackles for loss as, when they were leaning into outside zone and they just weren't athletic enough to do it. And so guys would kind of slice through on these east-west runs and get running backs in the backfield. The fact they're really just kind of going north-south means as long as you run behind the double teams, you're not going to go backwards. It's just they didn't have anybody who could really pay off the room that was generated. Now Woody Marks might give them some of that. Plus, Woody's a great receiver in his own right as well. So overall, the Ravens' run defense, which is, as I mentioned, 30th in the NFL in terms of rush defense EPA per play allowed, or however you want to phrase that. they're shit. Okay, that's the easy way to phrase it. They're really bad against the run. The Texans offense isn't dominant on the ground, but they're good enough on the ground to, I think, set the tone. And again, the Ravens can't rush the passer. The fact that they have 4 sacks in 4 weeks is very un-Ravens like. They're 27th in pressure rate. They're 26th in quick pressure rate. You said this might be a get-right game for the Ravens defense. I think it's a get-right game for the Texans offense. And even though they blew out the Titans like 26-0, it's not like the offense was playing great for a lot of that game. It was very much, as CJ Stroud said, death by 1,000 paper cuts. I think it might be death by a couple big slices in this game with how bad this Ravens defense is playing, especially down all these starters. So I think the get-right game is really more on one end of the spectrum than the other, and that spectrum is firmly pointing Houston to me. It's also very possible this is just, the Derrick Henry legacy game, and they don't even try to throw against this pass rush, and they just run it and run it and run it. Because, Houston's run defense, I think the numbers are skewed a lot because of the Tampa game, but the Tampa game is also an example of why I'm worried about the Ravens run game, having a potentially big bounce back kind of day, is because what Grizzard did, Tampa's OC, against Houston, like that was some of the best designed, run game plans that I've seen in quite some time. If you're looking at all the offensive line injuries that they had, like they should not have been able to run the ball that day, but they were doing stuff like, just to give you an example off the top of my head, after the Mike Evans offensive pass interference penalty, it's like 2nd and 20 just outside or 1st and 20 just outside the red zone. They go into a 3-by-1 because Houston plays more quarters than like almost anybody. And so they're almost not automatic, but pretty damn close to automatic 3-by-1, just outside the red zone. They're going to be in quarters, right? And that was on purpose. And so they called like a same side power away from the 3 technique against quarters because they're like, okay, safety's going to be depth, or safety's going to be at depth. So we're going to have space here. They didn't run power into the 3 technique. They ran it away from the 3 technique and they pulled the center. They did that kind of like center pull adjustment where it's still power, but why are we going to make him do a back block and pull the guard when we could just pull the center instead? The angles are better. And then the right tackle, which I think it was before Gadecki got hurt, it was just Will Anderson playing like a wide 9 out there because it's 1st and 20. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go hunt. And so Gadecki just winds up and fucking slaps the shit out of him and sends him flying into the backfield, taking advantage of his own penetration. So then Gadecki's in space. The center's pulling around. It's same side power. So you got Bucky Irving with 2 blockers in front and just a safety looking at 700 pounds of human coming, right down the lane at him. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like the perfect run call. like I can't imagine a better designed run for that situation. And he did it over and over and over again. And like you're looking at the run concept splits for Tampa from week to week, and he's calling different stuff every single week, tailored exactly for the defense he's facing. And okay, what does that have to do with Baltimore? Todd Monken does that too. Like he knows how to design a really tightly not tight, that's not the right word. He knows how to design like a tailored, bespoke run plan for an individual defense, just like Grizzard does. And so, if anything, I'm worried about a Henry legacy game from that, but it's really more a Todd Monken compliment than anything else.
And if he does, they are susceptible to that. It would be a whole lot better than saying, hey, Cooper Rush, I'm going to put the ball in your hands against one of the better secondaries in the league. Good luck. You're, yes, one of the better veteran backups, but that's not saying a whole lot against one of the top defenses against the pass in the NFL. So if I was him, I would lean that way, but that's why he gets paid the big bucks and I have a podcast.
Do you have a pick for the game?
It feels like everything's going wrong for the Ravens, so I'm going to pick them.
The Texans fan in me wants to go Houston just because, again, every reason is pointing towards Houston. Not that Houston's a great team this year, but like backup quarterback, Half the defense is injured. It doesn't make sense that the Ravens would win this game, and that's exactly why they would. Because Houston always is going to lose the game that doesn't make sense. So I'll go Baltimore as well, begrudgingly. Also, by the way, because we're recording this so early in the week, I don't know what player we're picking for the underdog entry for this game, because we build an underdog entry out of one player from every single game. So I'm just going to put that on screen right now. We'll fix that one in post, EJ. And then by the end of the show, you're going to have a full entry on the screen, which you can either tail or do the exact opposite, which, knowing my luck, you should probably do the exact opposite. And of course, if you want to do that, you can go to Underdog Fantasy at the link in the description below or at the QR code on the screen. If you use promo code BOOTLEG and you deposit $5, you get 50 in bonus cash on Bootleg, on Underdog. Thank you once again to Underdog for sponsoring this entire season. And with that, we spent a long time on that game, more than I thought we would. Next game on the docket, Patriots-Bills, an AFC East matchup of potentially two playoff teams. Like, we know the Bills are going to be a playoff team. Patriots very easily could be a playoff team this year. And in fact, based on what I've seen so far, probably will be a playoff team. I don't think it's crazy to say that they should be 3-1 right now. If they didn't turn it over 5 times against Pittsburgh, they probably would be 3-1.
Yep.
And when we previewed the Carolina game, we said if they just played the exact same game that they did and didn't turn it over, they'd probably blow them out, and they blew them out. So this is a really good team. I'm sure the Bills are aware that they're a really good team. It's not as weird as it is to say, same old Patriots that have been bad for a while. Like, this is a legitimate threat in the AFC East with a young quarterback who is playing extremely well.
A more dangerous team this season for sure because of all the upgrades. The Patriots offense, when we talked about the Carolina game, we said, look, yeah, they need to play the same game. The way they did it was kind of fascinating to me because, Carolina comes out, scores first, and then the Patriots offense scored 6 unanswered touchdowns, all of their points, versus Carolina to completely crush the Panthers. They just ran them off the field, which was really impressive, actually, for a team that's still figuring it out. Yes, I know it's Carolina, but that is a difficult thing to do, just getting out of your own way. We see offenses stop themselves all the time, and they just rolled off touchdown after touchdown after touchdown until the game was well out of reach. And they didn't even really stop then, which was pretty cool. So Drake May, you talked about, and he is playing his role well and efficiently are the best 2 adjectives I can come up with for him this season. They're asking him not to risk the biscuit, and he is delivering. So when we talk about efficiency, he is 5th in the NFL in passer rating at 109.4. He is 7th in adjusted completion percentage at 80.2, and he is tied for the 14th lowest turnover-worthy play percentage. So how is that happening? Well, Patriots got an easy button. He has the 8th lowest ADOT in the league, averaged up the target. He is tied for the 5th fewest drops. I realize he is not dropping the ball, but his receivers are pitching in. They're not dropping it either. That was not the case last year. And he has the 10th fewest big-time throws. So again, they're not asking him to really stretch the field. It's not that he can't. I want to be very, very clear about this. I think he can do more, and I think he will do more as the season goes on and his career goes on. But right now, they're not asking him to do that. They're not leveraging their entire offense on him being able to complete those more high difficulty throws. And I think that is a very good plan for a young quarterback. I don't want anybody to get this twisted and say, oh, they're making it easy for Drake because he can't play quarterback. No, they're making it easy for Drake so that he can do it very, very well and support their offensive plan in a way that is going to deliver them to wins. And right now, he's doing it. The only hole in his armor, he has the 4th highest pressure to sack percentage in the league. So he is not managing the pocket particularly well. It's not that he can't, it's that he's not. Everything else is lining up. He is performing, I would say, as or better than expected. And therefore, the Patriots offense is rolling along. And the run game's been okay. It's 3.9 yards per carry. 24th in the league.
A little less than okay. But
well, here's the part that's been really not okay. 4 touchdowns, 5 fumbles. If your fumbles outnumber your touchdowns, your run game's never going to look great. So Drake, again, has been the straw that's stirring the drink, but he is stirring it sort of very deliberately right now, and that is fine. Like, don't freak out about that, Patriots fans. It's a good thing.
Beyond the pressure to sack ratio, which is like the bizarro Caleb this year, right? Where it's like Caleb's getting pressured a lot, but he's not really taking sacks. But I really wish that he would stop missing throws. Drake is not missing throws, but he's not getting pressured as much because the offensive line's playing really well. But when he does get pressured, he does take sacks. It's, again, if you just kind of fuse these two guys together, you have Josh Allen, but we're just not quite there yet for either one of them. The thing that Drake has been really, really good at this year, though, is attacking zone coverage, and in particular, attacking zone coverages that are that use post-snap rotation, right? So whether you're starting out in 2 high and then rotating into 1 high at the snap, or starting out in 1 high and then expanding out into 2 high, anything that involves a post-snap rotation, he has been exceptional at. In particular, like diagnosing and finding the right guy on time, in rhythm, like making the throws, to the point where the only quarterback with at least 25 attempts against post-snap rotation this year, if you take out like super small sample sizes, the only quarterback that has a higher passer rating than him is Jordan Love. He is number 2 in the league. He's at 110.7. And then the 2 guys right behind him are Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. So that's the kind of company he's in as far as guys that can diagnose and attack dynamic defenses that are moving, pieces all over the board as he's snapping the ball. That, to me, is a great signal for a young quarterback. If they can not make mistakes against that. Bo Nix is down towards the bottom. Michael Penix is down towards the bottom. Young quarterbacks, even ones that had a lot of experience in college, have been struggling against this. Drake May has not. He's also been very good at using pre-snap motion to diagnose man versus zone tells. And Josh McDaniels is always going to have multiple answers on every single play call. Here's your man read. Here's your zone read. Here's your middle field open read. Here's your middle field close read. Like, he always is going to give a quarterback answers, and Drake has been very good at just using those answers. So cerebrally, as a passer, I think that's really been his strength. I want him to take less sacks. And him not taking as many sacks is going to be crucial against Buffalo because they've been pretty good at rushing the passer this year. Can't stop the run, we're the shit, but they can really, really rush the passer. And speaking of not stopping the run, this is a matchup between the 32nd ranked rushing offense in terms of EPA per play versus the 27th ranked rushing defense in EPA per play. So something's got to give here. Or maybe we're just going to see the worst of the worst facing off against each. I don't know. It could either be really fun or really terrible. I guess we'll find out. The one strength of the Patriots offensive line, again, not been run blocking. It's been pass protection. But if I had to choose one, it would probably be pass pro, because we've seen what the Patriots offense looks like when they don't have pass protection.
Yeah, protecting the most important asset in your organization and keeping him upright is a priority. We're going to talk about a team later on that it's not doing that, but glad the Pats are. And, if we flip it over to the Patriots defense, they're going to need to stop Joe Brady's run plan if they have any chance in this one. And the good news is they've been the 3rd best in the NFL, allowing only 3.3 yards per rush per attempt for their opponents. New England's only given up 14 rushing yards to quarterbacks this year, but they played Geno, Tua, Rodgers, and Bryce. So I'm looking for that number to at least double this week, if not triple in 1 week, because, Josh is Josh. But to the Bills offense, they are so balanced. In fact, I looked it up, and they are the most balanced offense in the NFL. 50.57 run percentage, 49.43 pass percentage. That is the most balanced offense in the NFL. And that balance even extends between halves. A lot of times we'll see teams like the Bills where they'll, pass it in the first half, run it in the second half because they're ahead or they're trying to burn clock. Bills have gained 53% of their total rush yards in the first half and 47 in the second half. So it's, run versus pass, half versus half. Joe Brady is committed to the run. James Cook has been paying it off in a huge way behind that bar-brawling offensive line you talked about. And that discipline is like a hallmark of what Brady has brought to his OC job in Buffalo. And I had the realization as I was putting those numbers together that Josh plays that way almost as a personification of that approach. He's like the avatar for Joe Brady's approach to offense, which is not going to get too high anymore, not going to get too low anymore. We don't see that sugar rush Josh. He's going to come off a bad play and have a good one. And he's just that level, even, balanced quarterback. And that makes him very difficult to defeat because of all his physical skills. It was him getting in the way of him earlier. It was his accuracy. Well, then he remade his throwing motion. Then it was his just, desire to go out and make a play. And they had to sort of tamp that back. And then it was, not having a run game and having the ball put in his lap all the time. Like all that stuff is just gone. We don't talk about that stuff anymore. And it's what makes him, if I'm a defensive coordinator going against Josh Allen, sort of, people say, oh, he's unimpeachable. He never does anything wrong, right? He's just kind of unassailable as a quarterback right now because if you stop his run game, he's going to throw it really well. If he needs to make a big time throw, he's going to do that. If you stop both of those things, he's going to take off because you don't have enough defenders. And oh yeah, he's over 250 pounds and runs like a deer. Like, what are you going to do against somebody that's like reined in all their weaknesses? And the answer is not much.
You could very easily argue that he is the best combination of traits and size and as far as like how much he's grown between the years and temperamentally, not to mention like all the off-field leadership. Like he's kind of the ideal quarterback, like more so than anybody else in the league. And I'm including Patrick Mahomes in that. This is going to sound like I'm not anti Mahomes, but I'm just saying like Mahomes has had some accuracy issues this season and he's been a little bit streaky in the last couple seasons. Like I'm not seeing that from Josh Allen. Like almost every single game is about the best possible quarterback play you're going to see. And sometimes it's conservative and sometimes it's aggressive. He always is exactly what he needs to be for his team. And yes, I understand, Mahomes still beats him in the playoffs. And again, this is not an anti-Mahomes thing. Like I think Mahomes is going to go down as inarguably one of the two greatest quarterbacks of all time. Him and Tom, whichever one. But if we're just talking about like who is the ideal quarterback, size, arm talent, mobility, like all that, I kind of think it's Josh Allen. Like I can't imagine I'm going to see anybody who's bigger and faster with a better arm who's more accurate than Josh Allen. Like I don't think that's possible. Like it's Cam Newton with Dan Marino all mixed together. It's like unicorn. I don't even think does it justice. He's that special.
We're watching a quarterback who runs better than one of the greatest running backs of all time and has an arm like we've never seen and has grown mentally and isn't prone to mistakes. And you're just like, I don't care whether you're a Bills fan or not. Just sit back and appreciate it. Like I appreciated Rodgers when he was in Green Bay. I hated that he beat the Bears all the time, but that didn't make me not look at him during those MVP years and go, oh man, he's just, he's blowing the doors off the barn. Like you can't play quarterback better than that right now. And that's what I feel about Josh Allen.
So when people say, insert young, talented developmental quarterback here is going to be the next Josh Allen. No, they're not.
No,
they're just not. Like,
it's like saying they're going to be the next Mahomes. Just don't do that to people.
Stop it.
Or they're going to be the next Brady. Like the greatest quarterback standing of all time. You're going to compare somebody that's never played a professional snap to any of those guys. It's unfair to the guy that is, getting that comparison or that label. You want to talk about potential? Cool. There's a lot of ways to say a guy has great potential. Don't put that label on him.
First things first, I'm going to throw up, whatever the underdog pick is
yes.
for this game. Again, fixing that in post. So we're adding that into our entry that we're building as we go. Again, remember, promo code bootleg. Deposit $5, get $50 in bonus cash. Links generally available down below. One quick break, then we'll get right back to the show, I promise. With Premier League and football season in full swing at this point, today's sponsor, NordVPN, is one of the best ways you can get access to region-locked sporting events that are not available where you live. And you can just watch them by switching your location using Nord to a country that is showing the game. Nord can also get you cheaper flights, hotels, and subscriptions that all cost less money when they're bought from other countries as well. And beyond just getting access to more things at lower costs, Nord can also help protect your data while you're traveling and hooking up to public Wi-Fi. And it also has a threat protection feature that protects you from viruses, malicious software, and phishing sites too. And here's the kicker. All of this can be used on up to 10 devices simultaneously. So if you want to check out Nord for yourself and see what it can do for you this season and every season after, you can go to nordvpn.com/bootleg or just click on the link in the description, and that link is going to give you an extra 4 months on a 2-year plan. And there's a no-risk 30-day money-back guarantee if you don't like it as well. Again, that's an extra 4 months on a 2-year plan by going to nordvpn.com/bootleg or just click on the link in the description below. Thank you once again to Nord for sponsoring the show, and with that, let's get back to it. When people compare prospects to Brady, to your point, there's only one that I kind of let people get away with, and that's Joe Burrow, because Joe was just an insane prospect, right? And he kind of lived up to it. He gets, unfortunately, he's had 3 major injuries that have, ruined 3 seasons so far in his career. Like, I think it's like half of his seasons he's ended on IR at this point, or potentially will end on IR this season if he can't come back. But when he is on the field, I would say the Brady comparison is apt, because you're seeing what the Bengals look like right now without him. I might vote for him for MVP if I had a vote, just seeing what the Jake Browning-led Bengals look like, right? And we just watched the game against Denver last night. This is a horrifically bad football team. Like, truly, truly might be as bad or maybe even worse than the Titans. I think it is very clear that Zach Taylor is in over his skis and has been for a while and has been propped up by a generational quarterback. I think it is very evident that the front office doesn't know how to draft, and they haven't known how to draft for a long time. I know that they're not going to make any substantive changes at the top, with the people that are actually responsible for this. I'm well aware of this, but like, Bengals fans, this is what I was talking about, right? When I went on my rant over the summer about how no team had ever built their roster like this and succeeded, i.e. investing this many dollars and this percentage of the cap into 2 receivers. Nobody had ever done that before, and definitely nobody had ever succeeded. The only team that even came close was Miami, with Waddle and Tyreek, which, by the way, that didn't go well either because they were really bad in the trenches. And so they're like, oh no, it'll work for us though. And it's like, fucking why? Why would this work for you, right? And so you're seeing the rest of the roster that is completely degraded around Burrow since the Super Bowl year because they can't draft and they don't know how to spend their resources properly. And the fact they doubled down on this core of like 5 guys, and they're like, well, it didn't work last year, it'll probably work this year. Like, it's fucking insanity. Like, absolute insanity. I cannot believe that they did this again. And when I was yelling and screaming with Bengals fans over summer that I vehemently disagreed with how they did this, and they're like, no, you're just a hater. You just hate the Bengals. Why would I hate the Bengals, EJ? Give me a reason. Why would I hate the Bengals? This is not me being a Bengal hater. This is me trying to honestly, look out for Bengals fans and say, your franchise is doing you guys dirty. I am trying to help you. I am trying to be on your side. When I say this is a bad idea, here's all this historical data that suggests this is a bad idea. Maybe don't say I'm a hater. Do you get it now? Do you understand what I've been saying? Your quarterback gets hurt and you're left with what? An empire of dirt. You got 2 expensive receivers that can't get the ball because their backup quarterback can't fucking hit them. You got no pass rush, no DBs. You got what? Like, this is what I've been talking about, EJ. Like, this whole process is horseshit. It's been horseshit from the start. And I'm sorry, Bengals fans, this is not me hating your franchise. This is me being mad at your franchise on your behalf. I am on your side. This shit has to change, but I know it won't. And that's honestly what makes it worse.
Deep breath.
This team pisses me off so much, dude.
I know. I know. Believe me. I know. The Bengals are a house of cards in a magic show. They are a bunch of solid looking stuff on a table, and they said, don't you believe us? This will stand forever. Don't look behind the curtain. And then a stiff breeze came along, knocked their quarterback out. I'm not saying that Joe Burrow is not tough. He is extremely tough. He has taken a terrible beating behind that line. But the house of cards, which was not built to survive, did not survive. And now everybody's looking at the cards all over the table and the floor and going, but you told us it was solid. And we're all like, nope, we didn't. They did. And the Bengals are, there's no other way to say it. They are flopping around like a fish on dry land. Monday night's game against Denver was an exercise in offensive utility. We're talking about 3 total points, 159 total yards. This is the one that kills me. 3.8 yards per pass and 3.5 yards for rush. When there's no fundamental difference between your rush and your pass, your offense is broken. Like, the offensive line looks horrendous. They allowed 9 pressures in true passing situations in only 25 dropbacks. So 9 pressures in 25 opportunities on Monday night. On defense, they've got some players who are playing well, but it's not enough. They're just, it's trying to hold back the tide when it's rolling in and your feet are stuck in the sand. Dax Hill has made some really nice plays in big spots. It's not enough. Demetrius Knight looks like a keeper at inside linebacker. He's a rookie. It's not enough. Logan Wilson's out there just detonating people left and right. He's just pissed off and taking it out on opponents. And I'm here for it, because what else are you going to do in the middle of that defense? And the pass rush is underwhelming. You talked at length about that. The rush defense is, the run defense is giving up 4.5 a carry. That's 12th worst in the league. They're 27th in scoring defense. They're giving up 30. So I kind of don't care who your quarterback is outside of Joe Burrow, because he's not there. And the power structure at the top of the organization, I'm going to say the power structure because it's not a traditional power structure. There's not a traditional GM. There's a de facto GM that is a spokesperson for the family that runs contracts and everything else. It's set up quite differently than most other franchises. So I'm just going to say the power structure. And they bet on their talent. They doubled down in the offseason when Lou Anarumo left, and they thought new leadership could get more out of the talent they had on the field.
What
they thought
talent?
Right.
What talent?
They believed. Again, they drafted these guys.
They were 27th in pressure rate allowed last year. They're 26th this year. They were 26th in pressure rate generated last year. They're 30th this year. Like, as far as run game, like, they're 31st in yards before contact per attempt generated. They're 31st in yards before contact per attempt allowed. They fucking suck in the trenches, dude.
Yep.
So it's like, and I know you're not saying they have talent. They were saying they have talent. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't have talent. But sure, spend $100 million on 3 guys. That'll fix it. Good job. Like, oh my God. The fact that they had an opportunity to trade a number 2 receiver, not a number 1. They could have traded a number 2 receiver to get a first-round pick, maybe, and then some. And they were like, no, we need 2 alphas. Since when? Like, Buffalo hasn't had any receivers that are as good as either of those 2 guys. They're doing just fine. Baltimore has gone on runs with, like, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely and a bag of chips. Like, the Chiefs went to 3 back-to-back Super Bowls with, like, Rashee Rice as their number 1. Not even. Like, they had the corpse of Travis Kelce as their main receiving threat. But you're telling me that you guys think that you can go on a run with no trench talent that every other contending team has had, and just having receivers, and that's going to be the salve for all this. When last year 11 out of the 14 playoff teams were top third in either offensive or defensive trench efficiency, or in some cases both. And the only teams that weren't in the top third in either of them were the Texans, the Steelers, and the Vikings, who, by the way, all got bounced immediately. But sure, you're the team that's going to fix it and somehow go on a run and defy the odds. Like, oh my God, I feel like it's just a bunch of babies in a trench coat running this godforsaken franchise, EJ. Like, they're going to give me an aneurysm. I'm not even a Bengals fan. I hate everything they do.
Well, at least it's everything and not just a couple of things. It's complete.
Oh.
The reality is the talent acquisition strategy, which is what they're calling it, has left this team without enough difference makers on both sides of the ball, but certainly on the defensive side of the ball. So they're going to be locked into boat races all season long without their Pro Bowl quarterback. And it is, you talked about rot, and this is like coming into a house that you're looking at buying and taking 5 minutes and pulling up a floorboard and going, whoa, okay, everything down there is gone. Like, none of this is usable. There's like, I like the fireplace. We'll keep that. That's made out of brick, right? There's like 5 things in this house that I'll keep. And everything else, I'm just literally going to bulldoze off and start over. The Bengals are approaching that, right? If you went through the Bengals roster, if we went through the Bengals roster, we said, who's worth keeping outside of contracts? Like, who's worth keeping?
There's, I don't know, 8 guys.
Yeah, there's 5
Maybe.
to 8 guys that we would be like, yep, you're going to keep Burrow. You're going to keep Jamar, obviously. Trey, you're going to keep him if he's healthy, but he's over 30. So if you're going to need to rebuild, which you do, it's going to be 2 or 3 years from now. So that sort of exempts him. Maybe you want to keep Dax and Demetrius Knight on the defensive side. There's
I like Chase Brown if he could ever get any room to run with.
Right,
at all.
if he could get some help. So there's a handful of guys, but probably less guys on this roster than most others in the NFL, and not at key positions, right? You're not locked in at left tackle. You do not have a starting lockdown corner. You do have a wide receiver and a quarterback, and that's it. And it's not enough. You don't have a premier pass rusher who's going to be around by the time the rest of the team is ready. You don't have a dominating defensive tackle on the inside. Like, these are the hard positions to get in the NFL, the sort of non-fungible positions that you need to have them. And over time, and this is what's being laid bare with Burrow's injury this season, is what's left? And the answer is not a lot. And that means a lot of work for the Bengals if they're willing to undertake it. But I, like you, think they're going to get to the end of the season, slap another coat of paint on that rotted house and say, buy tickets.
The thing that pisses me off the most is that I am a non-Bengals fan. I'm very neutral about the Bengals, honestly. And yet I seem to care more about the long-term health and viability of this franchise than the people that run it do. Like, I want them to be good. I want them to make the right decisions. I want them to build a capable roster and to give a long-suffering fan base a product that they can actually believe in. And they don't seem to care that much. If they did, they would have built this roster entirely differently. So that's what really frustrates me, is like, I get this worked up about it and I don't even root for the franchise. I can only imagine the hell that like diehard Bengals fans are in. And again, I've been there as a Texans fan when he who shall not be named was running things. Like, rage turns to apathy real quick. And apathy should be an NFL franchise's worst nightmare, because that's really when you see things go downhill, when the fan base checks out. And I think they're like one more week away from checking out, if not already. I don't even think I want to get into the rest of this game, honestly. I'm just going to pick the Lions because of all of that, right?
All right.
I can't imagine.
I'm going to say nice things about the Lions, and it's going to take less than 2 minutes.
Okay,
on paper, this is going to be a massacre. The Lions are cruising right now. They've won 3 out of the last 4, averaging 41 points a game in those wins, and a 21-point margin of victory in those last 3 games. They do not look like they have lost a single step. Jared Goff is really sharp among quarterbacks with at least 50 dropbacks. He is second in adjusted completion percentage, 83%. Fourth lowest pressure to sack. He is manipulating the pocket extremely well. And he's tied for 11th in big time throws, which he didn't really have any in the first game. So the fact that he's tied for 11th after 3 good games and 1 bad one is just a mark of where they are. This is my mea culpa for the Lions. I said, I don't know. You can't possibly lose a really good offensive coordinator and a really good defensive coordinator in the same offseason and not at least have a stumble. Well, the stumble lasted all of 1 week, and they are right back where they were. They are a well-oiled machine. Credit to Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes. They are the anti-Bengals in that regard.
So I'm going to throw up some Lions player here.
Not some Bengals player? Come on.
It's just not going to be close. It's not going to be close. And if it is close, honestly, I'm more concerned for the Lions than anything
Something
else.
went terribly wrong.
Something went horribly wrong. We're going to get right back to the show in just a second, but I want to thank the HOF app for helping to make this show possible as one of our sponsors. And if you don't know who they are and you like to play either parlays or pick'ems, this is the app for you. They're not an operator themselves, they're just a parlay optimizer, and they use 500 million different data points and have analyzed over 800,000 parlays. You can research player props, you can get different parlay ideas from the leaderboards, and in general, just make your parlays or your pick'ems that much more efficient. In my deep experience of blowing my final legs on parlays and pick'ems, it can help just to get an extra set of eyes on whatever you're planning on doing that weekend and maybe use some data to talk you out of some really bad ideas. So if that sounds appealing to you, you can find the HOF app on iOS and Android. And if you use promo code BOOTLEG, you'll get a 7-day free trial and 50% off your first month. Again, that is promo code BOOTLEG on the HOF app. Find that on iOS and Android. You're going to get a 7-day free trial and 50% off your first month. Thank you to the HOF app for sponsoring. And with that, let's get back to the show. All right, last game on the docket, Chiefs-Jags. This is a really intriguing matchup, and I would like to say I know how it's going to go, but I really don't because there is a really huge injury that may or may not, and in fact probably will affect this game, and that's Trayvon Walker. Injured his wrist, according to Jeremy Fowler, went off to see a specialist. It doesn't sound like he's gonna play. Like you normally don't go see a specialist somewhere and then play 5 days later. So I'd be willing to bet that he's not in this one. Again, Jags have gotten unfortunately banged up a little bit over the last week, but the rest of the team, or in particular the rest of the defense, is still playing extremely well. I could still see them having a great day against Kansas City, but not having Walker makes me a little bit more nervous than I would have otherwise been.
He is one of the, triumvirate on that defensive line for the Jags that's really been causing pressure and havoc throughout. And I know he takes a lot of garbage. I had somebody jump in my mentions this week and say, I put up another scouting tweet about defensive line. And they're like, this is a Trayvon Walker tweet that, he was on the bad side of this equation. I was like, Nope, it absolutely
Not
wasn't.
anymore.
He's been really good and very solid. Again, people are always going to quibble with a top overall pick, but he is not a bust, nor has he ever really been. And he gets that label a lot, but he is a foundational piece of what they're doing on defense. So without him, yes, that is something that could change the calculus of this game. If we're looking at the other side, the Chiefs offense, Mahomes finally got back on track with the passing game versus Baltimore. And yes, the Ravens are a bottom half pass defense, but Mahomes was sharp in all the old ways. And that should really bother people who live in the AFC West and don't want to see that kind of thing. He's spreading the ball around, 9 different receivers. He's always done that, caught a pass, and all 4 TDs went to different players. He had 2 big-time throws, which have been missing in the past weeks. We've not been seeing them. And he had an 81% adjusted completion percentage, which is much sharper than the past weeks. He was at 74, 66, and 66 in the first 3 weeks. He was, again, inaccurate. We called it out. He'd been missing throws. Again, missing big opportunities opportunity throws as they opened up down the field, which was very un-Mahomes-like. He looked like he was rounding back into form versus Baltimore. It just wasn't the defense being bad. It was him being better. The receivers got into the act too. They caught 4 of 5 contested catch possibilities. They need to keep that going. And because the pass was working, they had to run it less, and they were more effective when they did. Now, they were starting from a not great place there. They still can't run the ball. It's not like we can impose our will through the run game. But when they had to do it because they were pass first to open up the run, it worked out a little bit better for them. And that should worry people who were like, well, the Chiefs are down bad and they're not going to come back until all their receiver talent shows up. All the receiver talent's not back. And lo and behold, Mahomes got a little bit sharper than he's been in the first 3 weeks.
We kind of alluded to it last week when we talked about the Chiefs offense, but they've been more explosive and more effective in the first 3 weeks than I think even people were giving them credit for. And because of all of the off-target incompletions that Pat was throwing, because he was having some accuracy issues, it made them look worse than they actually were. And if anything, they just kind of left a lot of meat on the bone. But the core foundation of the offense, I still thought was like fine. They couldn't run the ball. That's been the main issue, but they haven't been able to run the ball in a while. Like, they've always been a team that uses the quick pass game and the screen game to augment a very underwhelming run game. It is what it is. It's been like that since 2019, like early Kareem Hunt, reign in Kansas City. Like, they just haven't really been able to run the ball consistently since then, but they're used to that. It's just, they're also used to Mahomes being pinpoint accurate all the time so they could get away with it. When that accuracy slipped over the first month of the season, which he still had 5 off-target incompletions last week, but that was better than weeks 1 through 3. But when he wasn't pinpoint accurate every single time, all of a sudden that's where it just felt like things were falling apart because there was no consistency, right? And it just felt like they were in 2nd and 10 more often, felt like they were in 3rd and 9 more often because they weren't getting those just quick, cheap hitters, that basically acted as runs with extra steps for them. Against Baltimore, we kind of saw the quick passing game come back. We saw them try to stretch the field with Worthy. They hit 1 out of their 4 deep balls to him. Again, 3 of them were overthrown. He's still trying to dial in his accuracy, but like, they got 1 over the top, but the quick hitters are more accurate. And because of that, it felt like the offense was kind of moving a little bit more. Like, they finally got their quick game consistency back. They still weren't really able to run the ball, especially down in the red zone. Like, all 4 of his passing touchdowns were in the red zone because they have to be. Like, he still is their red zone offense, which is an issue. But that ultimately, I think, is the core of why this Chiefs offense felt better, is just Pat was more accurate. There wasn't a whole lot else that really changed. It's not like the offensive line magically played better. It's not like the running backs magically played better. Like, Xavier Worthy had an impact, but not like a huge impact. It was just Pat hit more throws. And when Pat is hitting as many throws as he did against Baltimore, it still feels like this KC offense can work. And I think ultimately they're going to be fine.
Yeah, especially when they get their talent back. And I think, again, the offensive line, which has new pieces, is going to continue to gel, continue to have that shared experience, which is so valuable for an offensive line to be able to say, oh, you remember in week 3 we missed this? No, this is how we're going to handle it, and not let it work 2 or 3 times more. All of those things are going to kind of come together on Kansas City side. I would like them to be able to see run the ball, especially late season, bad weather, Kansas City. It's going to be nice to have some sort of viable running game. I don't know exactly how they're going to get that fixed up, but even those screen passes can be tough when it's -15 in Kansas City, and we've seen that before. So Jags offense, I have a matchup for you to watch, and I think this is a good one, and I think the Jags will try and leverage it. I would try and get Brenton Strange matched up on Nick Bolton 101. Bolton has allowed all but 1 target in his area to be completed. 18 of 19 have been completed in his area for 181 yards and a touchdown. On the other side, Strange has caught 19 of his 23 targets at 9.6 yards a pop, which is, again, a way to... It's not like the screen game supplementing, the run game necessarily, but it is a little bit of north-south. If you can get a tight end to go out, make a quick choice route and hit him for 7, 8, 9 yards. That's like a very good run on first down. And that is a matchup that I imagine Liam Cohen's looking at and saying, hey, we're going to do that. Outside of that, Jacksonville, they're going to try and run Spags out of the defense that he would rather call to give Trevor cleaner looks to open up some of those passing lanes. And then it's up to Lawrence to hit those. And he was better at that last week, but he was not great. He's had a few, against the Niners, there were some decent looking throws. And if you just watch the highlights, I bet you think, oh yeah, he's back. He's not. Below average performance ball placement wise. He's still throwing it behind guys. Yeah, the receivers had 5 drops, but they weren't all in the receivers. Yeah, some of them hit him in the hands. But when a guy's going full speed across the formation, you throw it behind his back shoulder, yeah, he might get his hands on it, but he's probably not going to catch it. And if he does, he's probably going to get laid out. So it just got to be better, but they have to make those spaces bigger. At this point, if your game plan is dependent on Trevor hitting tight window throws down the field, you're going to be disappointed. Now, the run game's been very good, but again, you run to do what? Just keep running? I don't think Kansas City's run defense is that bad. You might be able to run them out of the pass coverages that you really don't like for Trevor, but it's still going to come back to him being able to hit those throws, pay off the offense, pay off the concepts. And if he can't, it's a bigger problem. But, they do have a good run game. Kansas City's run defense has been average, but it's, to your point, kind of like their offensive run game. It's always been average. It's always been mid-pack or even a little bit lower. They've won with that. We'll see if the Jags can manufacture their opportunities and then pay them off with Trevor actually hitting those throws.
Also, keep getting turnovers, right? This defense has been really good at getting turnovers all season long so far. They've got 13 in 4 weeks. They had 9 all of last season. Big reason for that, as we mentioned earlier in the week, the switch to being a predominantly zone coverage defense compared to being a man-heavy defense last year, despite not having any DBs that could actually play man other than Tyson Campbell. This year they're playing more zone. Campbell's playing out of his mind. Jordan's playing out of his mind. Devin Lloyd having a career year so far. You have all these players that are really good in zone coverage when they can, see ball, get ball, capitalize on tips and overthrows. Like Lloyd had an interception off a tip last week against the Niners. Like
that one was so goofy.
It was goofy, but hey, man, counts the box score.
Absolutely, and he was in trail position, and the ball is not round. I had a youth football coach that would tell us that. The ball is not round. It doesn't always bounce the way you think it's going to. It hit the receiver ahead of him and bounced right back to him. To his credit, he caught it. Linebackers don't always do that, and that is the reason that turnovers are fickle. But this year, Devin Lloyd is paying those off. He's been close in previous years and, frustratingly close, but hasn't paid him off. And this year, he is a big reason that defense is turning around. Him and Jordan Lewis are, at the core of that turnaround for turnovers. And if they keep it up, yes, a couple extra possessions would do wonders against the Chiefs.
So, do you have a pick? Because this is one that I have really gone back and forth with, and I'm still struggling, honestly.
Yeah, it is a much more even game than I think anybody thought it might be even a couple of weeks ago. And I still think the Chiefs are probably going to win it. It doesn't feel like a game the Jaguars are quite ready to win yet. This is some sort of a measuring stick game against a team that knows how to win games, is not playing to their full potential in the Chiefs at all, and we know that. But again, plays well enough to keep themselves in games, and then it gets down to crunch time, and can you make plays in the fourth quarter when the game's close? If you're asking me who I'm betting on at that point, it's Chiefs all day long. They just have so much more experience than this Jaguars team, and it doesn't feel quite dominant enough yet to really sort of, okay, 4 minutes, we're going to lock them down. We're going to get a stop or two on defense, and then we're going to march down and even, maybe get ourselves a field goal with reliability against the likes of Chris Jones, who, God, in the last 4 minutes, that guy is so locked in. It's like, oh, Chiefs need a play. Who's going to, oh, it's Chris Jones. He did it again. Who do you
think it's going to be?
Yeah, he did it again. He just has that clutch gene. So if it comes down and it's close, and I do think the Jaguars can keep it close. I don't think the Jaguars are completely outclassed here or anything else. But if it comes down to crunch time and somebody's got to get the play in the fourth quarter, I would be betting on the Chiefs.
I'll go Kansas City as well. If the Jags had Trayvon Walker in this game, I might feel frisky enough to go Jacksonville, but as of right now, it sounds like they won't. And I just trust, honestly, I trust the foundation in Kansas City more still. So yep. I think the Jags are close. I really do. And, maybe by the end of the season, if there's a rematch in the playoffs, I'd feel differently. But for now, going off what I think I know, I'll go Kansas City. All right. Long show today. Well, maybe long show. I don't know. I might have to cut some of that Bengals stuff out. We'll see. Some of that might hit the cutting room floor. We'll find out. If you see a Bengals rant, let me know. I may or may not leave that in. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching as late as you have. Also, thank you to all of our Bootleg patrons, our executive producers on Patreon, on the Bootleg Patreon. Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, Patrick, and Spencer. Appreciate all you boys for supporting us. Reminder to go to the public poll on Patreon to vote for Shot of the Week. We'll do our shot next week for that. And with that, we will see you. Oh, wait, no, we have one more show on Patreon. Forgot to plug that. We have a bonus preview episode posting the day after whenever this one goes live on the Patreon. It's a jumbo one because we missed last week. So keep an eye out for that if you're a patron as well. And for everybody else, we will see you next week.